ॐ ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं श्रीकृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। नमो महावदान्याय कृष्णा प्रेम प्रदायिने कृष्णाय कृष्णा चैतन्य नाम्ने गौरत्विषे नमः। पंचतत्वात्मकं कृष्णं भक्तरूपस्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तशक्तिकम्। श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। जन्माद्यस्य तोऽन्वयादितरतश्चार्थे सुभिज्ञस्वराट् तेने ब्रह्महृदाय आदिकवये मुह्यन्ति यत्सूरयः। तेजो वारिमृदां यथा विनिमयो यत्र त्रिसर्गो मृषा धाम्ना स्वेन सदा निरस्तकुहकं सत्यं परं धीमहि। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। स्वस्ति अस्तु विश्वस्य खलः प्रसीदतां ध्यायन्तु भूतानि शिवं मिथो धिया। मनश्च भद्रं भजतादधोक्षजे आवेश्यतां नो मतिरप्यहेतुकी। श्रीमद् भागवत के इस सत्र में आप सभी का स्वागत है।
We welcome you to this class on Śrīmad-Bhāgavata Gita. We are studying chapter 2, verse 26. In the previous few verses, Bhagavan Sri Krishna spoke about Atma, that it is eternal, it is immutable, it is unborn, it does not deteriorate, it does not grow in size. That's why there is no need to grieve about it. Because Arjuna's main question was, how can I kill my superiors? If I kill them, I will incur sin. Arjun had told that we are engaging in greatly sinful activity by killing our superiors, and there will be further reactions. The women will become polluted. And Arjun said that he had fallen into dejection. He was lamenting, and out of lamentation he sat down on the chariot. Arjun had said that he could not see anything that could solve the problem of his senses which were drying up out of grief. He said that if he would have been given sovereignty over entire earth and the heavens, then also his grief would not go away, because his grief was due to the impending death of his relatives. Although that's why Bhagavan said that nobody dies, so there is no need to grieve. But this topic is not so easy to understand because we do not have such experience of Atma. We only understand the body and we experience this world through the body only. And we see people are born, people die. So, from that point of view, also, Bhagavan says that there is no need to grieve. This is called Abhyugam, which means that accepting the stand of the opposite, the other party, and answering based on that, answering based on one's own stand as well as the stand of the other party. So, so Bhagavan says that I accept what you say, and in that case also there is no need to grieve. Translation: But, O mighty armed one, if you consider the self to be subject to constant birth and death, even then you should not grieve on this account. So here the word atha is used in the sense of taking a different stand, because there are different philosophies related to Atma. There is Bodhavad who says that Atma is Kshanika, it is Gyan Swarup, and it is changing constantly. It is not stable. This is one point of view. The other one is that of the philosophers of Charvak who say that this body itself is Atma. So body is there in one stable, but it is changing. Then there are other philosophies also that Atma is born along with body. Although body is not the Atma, but when body is born, then Atma is also born, and when body dies, Atma also dies. This is one philosophy. One more philosophy is that when this world is created, that time Atma is born, and when the this world is destroyed, that time Atma also dies. So like this, there are many points of view, various philosophies. So here he is telling a different point of view, that whether you consider Atma as temporary or whatever, in any case, there is no need for you to grieve. So nowadays also, many people think they have a philosophy called YOLO, you live only once. That is also one philosophy, that when this body dies, you are also finished. So this YOLO is nothing new, although people think like that. It was there earlier also. That is the philosophy of Charvak, what is called YOLO nowadays. So Bhagavan is telling in that case also there is no need for you to grieve, because if you consider, if you accept this point that birth happens, here Nitya Jatam can also be interpreted in the sense that the Nitya is born, but the point is that how can Nitya be born? and die. So here Nitya means which is Niyata, meaning that whichever body is there, and when the body is born, and that is Atma, and that dies, so that is referred here as Nitya Jatam. So even in from that philosophy, what is the need to grieve? Bec- Because you kill it or don't kill, it is anyway going to be destroyed. So that is why whether you consider it temporary, mutable, if it is not eternal, if it is temporary, why do you anyway grieve for it? It is as if, suppose you buy a machine, let's say you buy a watch. So one day that watch will break down, and if you do not buy watch, if you buy a pot will break earlier compared to a watch. So regarding that, you know anyway that pot is made and it can break anytime. It will stay for a limited period of time only. So similarly, body also behaves like that. Body body is also referred to, compared with pot. So the point is, for whom are you grieving? So Bhagavan is giving his logic to Arjun that you should not grieve. Whether you consider the Atma as eternal or as temporary, from both points of view, there is no logic in grieving, in lamenting. If it is considered eternal, then anyway it will never die and there is no need to grieve. And if it is temporary, it is bound to die. So in that case also there is no logic in grieving. So what is the cause for your grief? So now Arjun may say that fine, whenever it will has to die, it will die, but why should we kill? So Arjun may say that okay, I accept that body is temporary, it will anyway die. So does that mean that we go and break it? If pot is not eternal, does not mean that we break the pot with a stick. Whatever time period it has to sustain, let it sustain. Why should we destroy it before it's destined time to get destroyed? So why should we kill our friends and relatives? If somebody's pot breaks and any other object breaks, that person feels bad that it has broken and now I have to buy a new one. So Bhagavan is telling that this all this happens by karma. In Vedic dharma, according to Vedic instructions, there is injunction to perform karma, like it is said Agnihotram Juhoti, that those who accept Vedas, they do Agnihotra daily, they perform Sandhya Vandan daily. So these are the injunctions in Shastra. So if you are a Kshatriya, then there is injunction for Kshatriya to fight in the war. So if you do not perform your duty, which is laid down in Shastra, then you will incur sin. Because if you do not perform your Shastra prescribed duty, then you incur sin. So it is mentioned that if you do not perform your Nitya Karma, then you will incur sin. That's why Nitya Karma has to be done daily. For Kamya Karma, it is up to you whether you do it or not. It's up to you. If you do not want to fulfill that desire, then no need to do. But Nitya Karma is compulsory. You have to do it. Otherwise, you will incur sin in that. That will be Pratyavaya. So you are a Kshatriya and it is your dharma to engage in the war. So Bhagavan will explain that point later also. So if you are thinking that by killing them you will incur sin, I am telling you that by not killing them you will incur sin. And not only that, you will your name and fame will be spoiled in this world. People will say that Arjun did not perform his Kshatriya duty. And Bhagavan will also tell this later. So that's why Bhagavan is telling him now that you should perform your duty, you should not grieve. So this is a very important point that Bhagavan is making here, because almost everyone experiences grief, lamentation, dejection. So Bhagavan is giving the remedy for that, the logic why there is no point in lamenting, because there are many things in our life which are not under our control. Although we think that we are independent, we can control many things, but that is not true actually. We breathe, so our heartbeat is going on, but when will it stop? Actually, we do not have any control on that. We eat food, after that we do not have any control on digesting it. Two people eat the same food, one suffers from diarrhea but one remains normal. So behind that also there is a cause, but the main point is that we do not have control on everything in our life. So that is why we should perform our duty, as Bhagavan will tell later. If we are performing our duty, then we should not worry about sin. Bhagavan has told that if you perform your duty, there is no sin in that. But that duty should be performed without the aham bhav, the feeling of doership, the feeling of karta. So death anyway happens. Death happens in many ways. For some people, we say there was akal mrityu, means the person died. It had met an untimely death. But when an old person dies, people say that he was anyway about to die. But if somebody dies in accident, then we say that he met an untimely death. So actually, that untimely death does not mean that it happened suddenly. That was also predestined only, because death is predestined. Who will live for how much duration, who will achieve how much education, how much wealth, who will die in what way, this is all predestined. But because we did not expect an untimely death, we generally think that person dies in old age. That's why we call it akala mrityu, untimely death. In Shastra, it is said there are 100 ways of death: drowning in water, meeting accident. So this untimely death is also predestined only. We should not grieve for that also. So regarding this, there is a story in Mahabharata. There was a king. His name was Suyagya. He was a great, very powerful, influential king, very courageous king. He was very well known, and he was very much loved by the subjects in his kingdom, and he also loved the people very much. So once his neighbor, the neighbor king, he had a war with the king of the neighboring kingdom. So in the war he died. So now there was time for the funeral rites, and his queens were grieving. They loved him. They used to love him very much. So the queens were crying, and this was time for his funeral. So they were not allowing his funeral to take place. So there it is said that Yamraj, he came in the form of a child, and he told the queens that, "Oh queens, why are you crying?" So he came in the form of a small child. So when a small child speaks something, some words of wisdom, then people get attracted. That such a young boy and he is uh, teaching Shastra. Sometimes we see that children also do Bhagavad Katha. They are known as Balavyas. So people become very much attracted to them. So uh, The queen said that we are crying because our husband has died. So Yamraj said that, how come you say that he has died? He is here only. So they said that no, he is not our husband. This is the body of our husband. So then Yamraj asked, where has your husband gone in then? So they said that the Atma has gone. So then Yamraj said, this is anyway the body, then why are you crying for this? This will anyway start rotting. And when it will anyway rot, then why don't you let it to burn? So Yamraj, by counter questioning only, he brought the queens to this understanding that this body must be burnt, because the queens themselves said that the Atma has gone away. And Yamraj had told them that if this body is your husband, then why are you crying? Take it to in your home. So then they understood that the child is speaking the truth. What he is speaking is correct. From tomorrow, this body will start rotting. So if it is anyway about to happen, it is anyway going to get destroyed, then why to wait? Let us perform the funeral ceremony. So that is why, according to karma, everyone faces death and birth. So for we anyway cannot stop it. So this is one point of view, one stand. Bhagavan explains from this point also. Another point is that we can also consider this verse in this way, that the eternal Atma, what is Janma, what is birth? The relation of the Atma with the body. So this is birth. Although Bhagavan has told earlier that body, that the person does not die, there is no death. But when we speak of birth, that is when one gets relation with the body. So this is Nitya Jatam. Nitya Jatam can be understood in two ways. One is Niyata, that it anyway keeps happening. So this is a Vyapti. Wherever there is smoke, there is fire. So wherever there is birth, there is death. And second meaning of Nitya is that Nitya can be applied to Atma also. That if Atma is Nitya, and Janma, birth is nothing but its relation with the body, and when it gets separated from the body, that is death. So that anyway happens. So why do we have to lament? Why do we have to grieve for that? Because all the relations which are there with the of the material objects, whenever they will inevitably be separated. Anywhere you see, whether it is meeting of people or meeting of material objects, any two objects or two people, two jivas, if they are meeting, then that meeting itself tells you that there will be separation. And from when their meeting started, from that time only their separation has also started. The moment meeting happens, separation also starts from that point of time. So this is about to happen. But our focus is always on the meeting, not on the impending separation. If we love somebody, our friends, relatives, then we derive pleasure in the sanyoga, in our relation, in our meeting with them. But we should also remember that every moment we are getting separated from them, and one day that separation will get completed. Like if you are going to some place, every step that you are taking towards that place, but when you take the last step, then you say that now I have reached that destination. But that last step is not the only cause in reaching that place. Every step that you took from beginning, each of those steps is the cause for reaching that destination. So that's why separation happens. We call death as separation, but that death is happening every moment. When we are born, that time only death is also born. There is a verse in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam like this. So that verse says that, "O courageous person, this death is born along with birth." When person is born, death is also born, but it cannot be seen. It keeps moving like a shadow. Just like shadow cannot be separated from the object, similarly death cannot be separated from the person. So that death is always behind us, and one day it manifests itself in front of us. That shadow comes in front of us. So the person who keeps this in mind, that person does not lament. That is why people celebrate their birthday very happily, very enthusiastically, and every person celebrates according to his capacity. But that birthday is also indicative of the day of death. Like somebody says that this is my 16th birthday, they call it sweet 16. So those 16 years he has died. He has died those 16 years, means he has come closer to death by 16 years. If it is your 25th birthday, that means you have come closer to death by 25 years. But you do not focus on this point. And if you focus on this point, if you try to understand this, then you will not lament, because you have been counting that. Every night when you sleep, you should understand that one more day in my life, this life is gone, and I have come closer to death by one day. This is reality, this is truth. So then when death will manifest itself, then we will not have the suffering, because we anyway knew about that and we had been counting every day. So just like you think that you are living, you can also think that I am dying. This is also one point of view, and this is truth. It is not that it is some inauspicious talk, because people consider death as inauspicious, they consider birth as auspicious. Death is also auspicious because that person will get a new body. If the person does not die, then how will he born? So if birth is auspicious, the cause of that auspicious birth is the previous death only. If a child is born in somebody's family, people celebrate. And if somebody dies, they grieve, but they don't understand the person who is being born, he died before that. That is why he's being born in this new body. If he would not have died, how could he have taken birth here? Similarly, if somebody is dying, just think it from this point that he is going to get born in another body, and wherever he will take birth, those people will celebrate, they will distribute sweets. So why are you grieving? Now the person who is dying, he should focus on his impending new birth, where sweets will be distributed, or on these people who are crying. So you should not worry about both. This is what Bhagavan is trying to tell. This is the instruction of Gita, how you have to remain equipoised, balanced, in equilibrium, whether it is birth or death. When Bhagavan will explain what is jnana in the 13th chapter, that time he will explain this. These are due to doshas. In Nyaya we have studied. So the cause of that is pravritti. So this is all happening by karma. So we have to liberate ourselves from this. So actually, if death is inauspicious and we have to free ourselves from death, then we should perform our karma. So Bhagavan explains that do your karma. If you keep lamenting in this cycle that I will die, then you won't become free from death by lamenting anyway. Whether you are from the side of Charvak, Vedantis, or Naiyayiks, anybody, nobody can stop death. So that's why Bhagavan is telling that you are Mahabaho, you are mighty armed, you have huge arms, you are very powerful. So why are you behaving so foolishly? Being even though you are mighty armed, why don't you understand what I'm trying to explain? So in one way he is explaining to Arjun, in other way he is also mocking at Arjun. So Arjun is his brother-in-law. So there sometimes there may be some jokes or things spoken in a lighter mood between brother-in-laws. So Bhagavan is telling that you are a mighty armed person and you are speaking like a foolish child. So Bhagavan is not telling that do not grieve. Bhagavan is telling that you do not deserve to grieve. If there is a very big person, very rich person, and if somebody goes there, a beggar goes there, and the person gives 10 paisa, it's a matter of great embarrassment. When Vamandev went to Bali Maharaj and he asked for 3 steps of land, so Bali Maharaj felt very much embarrassed that what is he asking? I am the Lord of the 3 worlds, and he is asking just for 3 steps of land. So he told that ask for that, ask in such a way that you will never have to ask again in your life. So Bhagavan is thinking that he is a mighty armed person and he is behaving like a fool. He is thinking in such a petty, insignificant manner. So you are a mighty armed person. The Kshatriyas, when they go into the war, they are always ready to die. One who laments for death, how can he come on the battlefield? So Bhagavan is trying to remind him that you are a mighty armed person and you have engaged in many battles earlier also. And with these same people, the Kauravas, you have fought with them earlier also. It is nothing new for you. That's why you should not grieve. Now Bhagavan continues this logic in the 27th verse. Translation: For one who is born, death is certain, and for one who dies, birth is certain. Therefore, you should not grieve over the inevitable. So this is a very nice verse. This is one of my favorite verses from Bhagavad Gita because it is telling some such a point which we never hear anywhere else. And if it can remain in your consciousness, if you can remain aware of this, what this verse is telling, there will be no need for you to grieve in any situation. So Bhagavan is telling here that for one who is born, if you consider from bodily point of view, if you consider that Atma is body or body itself is Atma, then it will anyway die one day. Its death is certain. This is the law of nature, that anything that is born, it gets destroyed also. We all have this experience. And whatever is destroyed, what dies, whoever dies, he gets born again. This is what people don't understand. They understand this much, that the body which is born, it will die. But then if body itself is Atma and it dies, how can it be born again? Those who consider body to be Atma, who are the Dehatmavadis, and for whom Bhagavan is speaking this verse, if body is born and it's that itself is Atma, then it will die anyway, according to the Prarabdha. So forget about Prarabdha. Dehatmavadis do not accept that, but this is the law of nature. Okay, even if you do not accept the law of karma, even if you do not accept Atma as different from body, at least you accept the law of nature. It is the law of nature that anything that is born or created, it is temporary and it will get destroyed definitely. We all have that experience.
लेकिन ये जो दूसरा जो भाग है
But the second part of this, of the first line in this verse, that Dhruvam Janma Mritasya Cha, how can we understand that? That what is death will be reborn, because the body has died. How will it be reborn?
इसकी संगति कैसे लगाई जाएगी, सोचने वाली बात है ना।
So it is worth deliberating. So how to make the connection? So in Dehatmavad, those who consider body to be Atma, how they make connection that this body is made of the Panchabhutas, the five elements, and it will get mixed back into the five elements. Then from those five elements, other bodies are also created.
किसी और का शरीर बनेगा,
So then some other body will get created,
इन्हीं के पृथ्वी तत्व
meaning that the earth element, water element, air element, fire element, body is made of all these elements, and they get mixed back into the original elements, and when again one new body is created, it is born from the mother's womb, there also these elements only come back.
फिर वहाँ कुछ पौधा पैदा हुआ,
So
कोई
like let's say a tree has died and it gets mixed in the soil, now one plant is born,
तो घास जो उस मृत
or let's say there is grass and the cow eats that grass
क्योंकि पृथ्वी का
and the cow gives birth to a calf. So those elements are only getting transferred from one body to another, whether you accept it or not.
जातस्य ही ध्रुवम,
So that's why Bhagavan is telling that uh,
और
one who is born will definitely die. If you can understand this point, then for what are you grieving? Because even if you do not kill these people in the war, they will anyway die. Their death is certain. You cannot prevent their death. You cannot stop it. So then you should not grieve.
को अपने कर्म त्याग का पाप लगे,
But you will incur the sin of neglecting your duty.
एक प्रकार से लगाने का तरीका है इस श्लोक का।
So this is one way in which this verse can be understood. In this respect also, there is one story related to the birth of Bhagavan Buddha. So there was a very rich person,
व्यापारी
a businessman.
बहुत धनवान, बहुत
He was very rich and his business was going on very well.
बहुत
His wife was very well behaved, cultured, civilized, very religious.
उनके एक पुत्र हुआ,
So a son was born
सज्जन था,
to them. The son was also very well behaved, very obedient.
बड़ा हुआ
So when
तो
he grew up, so his parents got him married to the daughter of another businessman, and his queen was also, the wife was also very well behaved, cultured. But few months after their marriage, this businessman he died, and due to grief, his wife also died. So now this son remained alone, and he was very young. His wife was also very young.
फिर कुछ समय बाद
So after some time,
पत्नी ने गर्भ धारण किया,
his wife became pregnant,
और जब वो गर्भवती थी 8 महीने की,
and when she was pregnant for 8 months, then her husband also died.
तो इसको बहुत दुख हुआ,
So she was lamenting
सासू ससुर का देहांत हो गया पहले,
that first her in-laws died, and now her husband also died, and now so much wealth is there,
प्रेम करती थी,
and she loved her husband very much.
चाहती थी,
She also wanted to do sati,
लेकिन
to
क्योंकि गर्भ
immolate herself due to the death of husband. But for a pregnant woman, sati is forbidden.
सती धर्म का पालन नहीं किया,
That's why she did not follow the sati dharma. So a son was born to her,
लड़का बहुत सुंदर था, वो
and the son was very beautiful,
प्रीति थी उसकी, क्योंकि और कोई
and she had lot of preeti for her son.
उसी में उसका मन लगा रहता था, लेकिन जब वो 5 वर्ष का हुआ तो एक सांप ने उसको डस लिया,
So she was immersed in thoughts of her son only, but then one day he died out of snake bite.
हुआ
So she was suffering so much, as if her whole world got destroyed.
थोड़ा एक अंदाजा लगा सकते हैं कि किसी
So you can now imagine how much a mother will suffer. Son died, husband died, in-laws died. All this, all this wealth, property, everything. She was seeing the whole world as vacant for her. So she was crying very much due to the death of her son. She was not able to understand what to do. So Bhagavan Buddha came there because he was wondering. So people said that he is a very magical personality. Go out and meet him. Maybe he can uh, make your bring life back into your son's body. So when a person is attached, he doesn't understand that how can a dead body get life back again. But wherever that person gets some ray of hope, the person wants that. So this lady went to Bhagwan Buddha, she paid obeisances to him, and Buddha asked him that what do you want? And she told that my son has died, can you bring him back to life? So he said that yes, I can do that. So the lady became so happy. So the Buddha anyway knew that it is not possible, but he devised a plan to explain to her. That's why Buddha means very intelligent. So he said that yes, I can do that. So the lady was very happy. She said that please bring him back to life. Whatever wealth I have, I will give you everything. So he said that no, I don't need your wealth, but in order to bring him back to life, I need some mustard seeds. Because you must have heard, so for removing ghost and all, people use mustard seeds. For bringing ghost also, maybe they use that. One who dies is called a bhoot. Bhootgan is used for one who has died. It's called bhutatma, mritatma, pretatma. So he said that I need mustard. So she said that let me bring. I have lot of mustard in my home. So he said that no, you cannot bring from your home. You have to bring by begging from somebody else. But I have never done that. She said, I have never done that, but for my son, I can do that. So he said that go and bring mustard seeds from somebody's home. So she went. So he said that leave your son's body here only. So she said that no, I have to carry him with me. I will not leave him here. So Buddha said that there is one condition. She said, what is the condition? So Buddha replied that you have to bring mustard from such a home where nobody ever died. So the lady said, okay. So her mind was not working actually because she was lamenting so much that her mind was not functioning properly. So she was running and she was begging in every home, please give me some mustard seeds. My son will come back to life. So they were ready to give him whatever amount she wanted, but she just took one handful. So, but then she was asking in those families, please tell, has anyone ever died in your family? So they said that, yeah, somebody died maybe 1 year back, in some case, 2 years back. So every house that she was going, in every home, somebody has died at some point or the other. So from morning to evening, she was roaming around in different villages, every home, and she was hoping at least I will find one home like that. But she did not get even one home like that, where nobody has ever died. So then in the evening, she came back to Buddha, and then Buddha said that give the mustard, I will bring your son back to life. So she said that no, I did not get even one handful of mustard seeds. So he was surprised how. So she said that no, everyone was ready to give, but I did not find even a single home where no one has ever died. So Buddha asked him, what did you learn from this? Then she came to her senses and realized that death happens in everyone's family and death happens to everyone. So then Buddha said that your father-in-law died, your mother-in-law died, your husband died. Do you think that your father will not die?
आप सोचते हैं आपकी मृत्यु नहीं होगी,
Do you think that you will not die?
मृत्यु सबकी होती है,
Death happens to everyone.
जातो
So this
जातो
is what Buddha also told her.
जन्म मृतस्य च। तो इसलिए जब सब मृत्यु होती ही है
So
तो
when
उसको
death is anyway bound to happen, why to
अन्यथा
grieve
शोक तो मरना,
unnecessarily for that?
क्योंकि शोक करने से आपको प्राप्त क्या
Because by grieving, what will you obtain? Do you gain?
अगर
Do you stand to gain anything by grieving?
आपको कुछ लाभ
If
होता
by
है
grieving
तो फिर आप
you
दूसरों को
make some benefit,
उनके
then you can hire other people also to grieve. That I will give you this much money, please grieve on my behalf.
करने के लिए
Many times it happens in India that
तो मिलता है,
many people, when some death happens in their family, they bring
अपने
people on
पैसे से
hire
काम नहीं चलता,
to cry
तो पैसे
because
देने
their
पड़ते
own
हैं,
crying is not sufficient, so they give money to others to
तो
cry
उससे ही
for them.
आपको सफलता मिल जाती है,
So if you become successful by grieving,
बच हटाई जा सकती थी, तो बहुत लोग मिल जाएंगे शोक करने
then
वाले,
there will get many people who are ready to cry, who are ready to lament.
क्या
Go
फंडिंग
to
करनी चाहिए,
internet. Nowadays, what funding people do, there is crowdfunding.
क्राउड शोकिंग करना है,
So
हमारे
you
लिए
can do crowd lamentation, crowd grieving.
शोक करें हमारे लिए,
That we want to collect some people who will grieve for us, who will cry for us. So some people you will get them definitely
होता है हमारे लिए शोक करने के
daily
लिए,
2 hours. Please grieve for
तो
us
शोक
for
से
two
कुछ
hours.
होता नहीं है,
So nothing happens by grieving.
हानि ही होती है, क्योंकि जब आप शोक करते
It
हैं
simply brings loss
काम नहीं करती है,
because when we grieve, our
कोई काम नहीं करती,
intelligence stops functioning, our body stops functioning properly.
जीवन
We cannot perform our daily duties. Our life changes.
और उसका आपको
Our
गहरा
mind
असर
is
पड़ता है,
always in grief,
तो
and
आपको
it affects our health also. We get into dejection.
युक्त व्यक्ति क्या कर सकता है,
So a dejected person, what can he do? He can't do
उसको
anything.
कोई लाभ नहीं होता,
So nobody stands to gain anything by
कुछ लाभ
lamenting.
हो सकता है तो
Yeah, if you
लेकिन होता नहीं है,
gain something by lamenting, then
तो
lament,
हम कहते हैं कि
but you
दुख
won't gain anything.
काफी
That's why Bhagavan is telling that you do
लेकिन
not
चिंता करते हैं,
deserve to grieve.
शोक के साथ में
So
आप चिंता को भी लगा लेते
always remain in anxiety. Unnecessarily, they remain anxious, they remain
हैं, तो
worried,
ये
by
अपरिहार्य
which they do not stand to gain anything.
हैं,
So this apariyarthe is
तो
extremely important
जीवन में
word,
परिहार करना
that
पड़ता है,
anything whose parihar cannot be done,
जिसके
means
द्वारा
which cannot be stopped, what is inevitable, we do not have any remedy for that.
उसके बारे
We
में
should
सोचना
not
कि उसको
lament for that, we should not worry about that. It is
परिवर्तन
simply
करने
foolishness
के ही
to
लिए
worry and grieve about that.
तुम
This is
प्रकृति
what Bhagavan had told earlier also,
कि जिस वस्तु के लिए शोक
that
नहीं करना चाहिए,
for that object for which we should not grieve,
अपने आप को
you are
सोचना
grieving for that, and you are considering yourself a great Pandit.
सोचंती पंडित, तो पंडित का मतलब यही होता है जो बुद्धिमान
So
होता है,
Pandit means this only, one who is
भगवान
intelligent, who is
भगवान ने
experienced,
यहाँ
who
पर
is
बताया है
wise,
कि जब
who
तपस्या
acts
की आएगी
according to wisdom and
तो शोक नहीं
experience.
करें,
So we all have this experience that death
हमारा
and birth cycle
वर्तमान
keep
में
repeating.
लोग किसी काम के लिए, मानो किसी ने अपना साक्षात्कार दिया, इंटरव्यू दिया,
If somebody has given any
परीक्षा दी,
interview, if you have written in any exam, once you have written the exam,
जब तक उसका
then
परिणाम
why do
नहीं
you
आता
worry for that? But students keep
क्या होगा,
remaining worried in
अगर
anxiety, they remain in anxiety, what will happen to my result?
नहीं किया
So you, whatever anxiety you should have taken, you should have taken before writing the paper,
तो
before writing in the exam. Once the exam is over, now
लेकिन लोग
why are you in anxiety?
किसी का कहीं
But
काम के लिए इंटरव्यू होता
people
है,
remain in anxiety. If somebody has a job interview,
किसी
somebody has appeared for an
नौकरी
exam,
के लिए, तो उसमें चिंता रहेगी जब तक
then
परीक्षा का रिजल्ट
until
नहीं
and
आता,
unless the result is declared, the students remain in anxiety.
ये बुद्धिमानी नहीं है,
This is not
इसी को
intelligence.
भगवान यहाँ पर बता रहे हैं कि तस्माद
That is what Bhagavan is trying to explain here,
न तुम शोचित
that therefore you do not deserve to grieve.
इसको अगर हम ध्यान में रखेंगे तो हम
So
कभी
if we remain aware about this
परेशानी
truth,
में नहीं होंगे, तो ये बहुत
then we will never fall into grief. So this is a very nice verse, and
एक दो
it's
श्लोक हैं
worth
याद करने के लिए
memorizing.
जो बहुत
One
काम
or two verses like this should be
ये
memorized.
नहीं है
which are very useful for us. These verses are not just for giving lectures, they are meant for us to apply in our life. We have entitled this lecture series as Bhagavad Gita and Our Life. So the objective is to apply the teachings of Bhagavad Gita in our life. If you remember this verse, if you remain aware about this verse, no matter whatever happens to you in your life, you will always remain happy. And Bhagavan Sri Krishna himself is the living proof, the example for that. From his birth onwards, he faced so many troubles and challenges, but he never cried, he never lamented, because it always happens. Because most of the things in our life are not under our control. Our life, our breath, our heartbeat, that is also not under our control. It can stop anytime. Then what else can we control? But we try to control every person. We want that everyone should work according to our own desires. Our own mind is not under our control, but we want to control others. We want that everyone should become a machine for us, and we can operate them, we can utilize them in whatever way we like. But that is not possible. We have to accept that fact. And if we accept the fact, then we will never lament. Why do we lament? Why do we suffer? Because we have desires, such crazy desires, which cannot be fulfilled. The only thing possible for us is to control ourselves, control our mind. That also with great difficulty. For that, you have to do some sadhana. Then, to some extent, it is possible. Otherwise, that also goes ahead, life goes ahead in an uncontrolled manner. So, if we can absorb or digest this teaching of Bhagavan, this teaching of how to remain peaceful, remaining balanced, you will not get this teaching anywhere else, that how you can live peacefully. And for this, you do not have to spend money. People spend so much money attending all kinds of seminars, taking teachings from such life coaches and all kinds of therapies. So this is the best therapy that Bhagavan is giving. But then we have to apply this in our life, not just that we simply hear and it's over. We have to apply it in our life. Like when we eat food. If the food plate is simply remaining in front of you and you do not eat it, then will that food nourish your body? Similarly, this knowledge, after hearing, we have to digest this knowledge. Then we will become strong. So we have to apply it in our life. That is why this verse is very nice, worth memorizing. Then there is other point of view also. One point of view is that you consider body as Atma, and the other point is that what Bhagavan has been explaining from beginning, that Atma is different from body. We can understand this verse from that point of view also, that Atma is born, meaning that when we say Atma is born, it means that Atma has now relation with the body. Atma comes into that contact, and now Atma will be separated from the body. And when there is separation, later again there will be union also. They will meet. Only the person who has become liberated will not get born again. So that person is not born again. So here Bhagavan is not talking about the liberated person. Here Bhagavan is talking about the person who is not yet free from karma. So that person will take birth again. So whether you consider Atma as different from body, or you consider body only as Atma. In both cases, there is no logic in grieving, in lamenting. This is Bhagavan's teaching in this verse, and we will stop here. If you have any question, you can ask.
प्रश्न है मेरी
So,
एज
question:
30 से ऊपर
my
है
age is 30
तो
plus.
मेरे को क्या सोच रखनी चाहिए
What
पैसे की
ideology should I have regarding wealth? How much importance should I ascribe to wealth? So, answer: you should ascribe that much importance to wealth so that your life can move ahead. Like in Bhagavad it is said, Labho Jivete Yavata, that you should have that much wealth so that your life moves ahead. And what is the purpose of life? That is Tattva Jigyasa, to inquire about Tattva.
प्रश्न है
Next question:
ईश्वर एक है तो फिर इतने
if
धर्म क्यों हैं?
Bhagavan is, if Ishvara is one, then why there are so many dharmas, and in so many dharmas, why there are again so many sampradayas? Why has Bhagavan not given only one path? So Bhagavan has given one path only, that is Bhagavad Gita. People do not accept that, and then people give all kinds of different meanings and interpretations to that. Bhagavan is telling one thing only, but human being uh, makes 50 paths from there. Now that I have given one class, so every person will understand it in a different way according to his own mind, his own intelligence. So accordingly he understands, and then differences come up. According to our samskaras, we accept the teachings, but Bhagavan is giving one teaching only. And even if Bhagavan gives multiple teachings, that is because he knows that people have different capabilities to understand. Although the objective is one only. In Veda there is Karma Kanda. Karma Kanda is also meant to be free from karma only. The Karma Marga that Bhagavan has given, it is also meant to become liberated from karma only. But because people have different levels of intelligence, according to one's level of intelligence, Shastra explains to that person.
प्रश्न है पिछला पढ़ा हुआ
Next question: what I learned earlier, I forget that. How should I study so that I do not forget? So keep reminding yourself of what you learned earlier. Repeated practice, repeated revision is required. Some people have very sharp memory, intelligence. By studying once only, they can remember it always. But those who do not have such sharp intellect, they should keep revising regularly. Then that samskara becomes deep. Next question. I have studied in the Ashwamedhika Parva of Mahabharata that Arjun forgets Bhagavad Gita and requests Krishna to repeat it, but Krishna then gives him Anugita teachings, which is different from Bhagavad Gita. I wish to know if this is true or not. So answer: if it is in Mahabharata, how can it be wrong? If somebody is giving you a class, and if you forget it and you tell him please give the class again, how can he repeat it same thing as it is with the same words? The essence may be same, but the way of explaining obviously will be again now little different only. So Bhagavan spoke Bhagavad Gita in Kurukshetra. Now he might have spoken Anugita in a different place. That situation might have been different. So accordingly, he must have explained in a little different way. So what is there to doubt that? Next question. Even we know that by grieving we do not benefit, and in fact it harms us even more. Why we grieve? Is this due to ignorance? How can we overcome this ignorance? So this is answer: you have to understand this by your own mind. Like people know that smoking is injurious to health, but still they smoke. So when they know that what they are doing is wrong, still they do it. They do not have control over their mind, or maybe they see some benefit in that. So you might be also imagining some benefit by grieving. That's why you grieve. One who knows that smoking cigarette is injurious to my health, why does that person smoke? So some benefit is definitely there for him. Like he says that my I am getting relieved of my tension. That's why he's doing that. So a person who is intentionally grieving, he is getting something out of it, because without benefit nobody does anything. So you have to see what benefit you think you are deriving by grieving. If I tell you put your finger in fire, will you do that? You will not do that, because you know there is no benefit in that. It is simply loss. So where we see loss, there also, if some benefit is there, we do that. So then we have to understand what benefit is there. It is simply, it is in reality, or it is simply our imagination. Am I qualified to get this benefit? Should I actually do this or no? You have to analyze properly.
जी पूछते कहते हैं कक्षा
Next
11 में
question.
महाराज जी
Uh,
यदि परिणाम शिक्षा
if
के
education,
पर
wealth,
आधारित है तो
longevity
मैं यह कैसे
are
निर्धारित करूं कि
predestined,
मुझे
then
कितना
how should I understand and or decide that till how long I should endeavor? So endeavor is not predestined. So you don't have to fix that for certain time. So what is predestined? So there are two things in our life. One is our endeavor and one is the karma phala. What is predestined? So that is predestined, that will happen. But in that situation, what I have to do, that depends on me. So many situations come in our life. So those situations come up by Daiva, they are predestined by our karma. But in those situations, what we should do, that decides our future.
प्रश्न है भगवत गीता के 2.27
So next question, according to Bhagavad Gita 2.27, Sri Krishna instructs that one should not lament upon death. However, when a large number of deaths occur due to extreme and violent means like war, genocide, or invasion
हिंसा के कारण
over a long period, it overwhelms us and causes us distress. How do we deal with the distress arising out of such events and remain equipoised? So answer, that is what Bhagavan is telling here. What else does this verse mean? Whether one person dies or many people die. This is what I explained, that what will you derive by grieving? If you get something, then tell me, what do you get?
प्रश्न है कृष्ण जी
Next
पूछते
question.
हैं वैराग्य
Uh,
में आने के बाद
in the situation of Vairagya,
जिंदा रहते हैं
why many people remain alive? They do not die immediately after Vairagya. If they have nothing to do with this world, why do they remain alive?
वैरागी लोग
So the question is, why do renunciates live? So are you asking that renunciates should die immediately? So maybe they are not dying because their renunciation is not complete. When their renunciation will become complete, they will die. So they are living to practice that vairagya.
बाबा जी प्रणाम। मेरे दो प्रश्न है। तो एक प्रश्न ऐसा है कि आपने जो कथा बताई,
So I have two questions. One question, you told about the story of Bhagavan Buddha. It is true that if there is nobody in whose family no one has died, but if a 5-year-old child has died, that is not so common in many families. So if the 5-year-old child died, that grief might have been due to that death. So the question is, what Bhagavan is telling here, if the death happens timely, then there is not much grief. But if it happens untimely, then there is lot of grief. So then how is Bhagwan's teaching applied in this case of untimely death? So Bhagwan is telling that, answer, Bhagwan is telling that one who is born, his death is certain. In this verse, Bhagwan is not telling who will die at what time. That death may happen any time. Bhagwan never said that you will die only after completing 100 years of age. It, one can die after 5 days of birth also. One can die 5 minutes after birth also. So Bhagwan is simply telling here that one who is born, his death is certain. No need to grieve for that. Second question is, what is the utility of grief? So answer, grief has no utility. So counter question, if somebody gives logic that if we grieve, that if there will be grief, somebody will be influenced and will do something for us. So example, like if there was plague in Europe and then there was COVID, many people died. After that, government manufactured vaccines. So do you think the vaccines were manufactured due to people grieving? Would they not have manufactured vaccines if people would not have grieved? If there would have been no grief, then government would not have manufactured vaccines, or what? Grief is not for that. Grief is due to attachment. People do not grieve intentionally. That grief happens due to attachment. And then that subject of attachment has died. The Vishaya has died. So that's why there is grief. So that's why Bhagavan is telling that that separation is bound to happen. We live under the assumption that separation will never happen, that we will never get separated. Now our family members will not get separated. So that's why I explained that wherever there is sanyoga, there will be viyog. Where there is union, separation is bound to happen. But people do not think about that. That's why Bhagavan is explaining this.
संदीप जी प्रश्न पूछना चाहते हैं।
बोलिए।
प्रणाम बाबा जी महाराज। सो मेरा क्वेश्चन ये है कि
So the question is that many times people say, people advise that you should cry, otherwise your pent up feelings will keep getting accumulated, will not come out. So medically also many times this is advised. So what should we consider this about this? So it's like some internal, are they advising them to grieve internally or what? How can we relate this situation to grief? So answer, what is there to relieve? Yes, grief. Grief is always internal only. External, whatever happens is just an expression of that internal grief. So the person who is grieving internally and doesn't want to show to others and is not expressing it, so it is anyway there inside. Bhagavan is not telling that just express it externally. Bhagavan is telling don't even grieve internally, uproot it completely. Now the person who is grieving internally and he is suppressing it, not expressing it, so definitely problems will arise in him because he has not cured that problem. He is simply suppressing it. It's like if you have fever and you can just try to reduce the fever externally, but you are not removing the cause internally. So you have to get rid of the problem internally.
प्रार्थना श्लोक। सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दोग्धा गोपाल नंदनः पार्थो वत्सः सुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महात्। एकं शास्त्रं देवकी पुत्र गीतम् एको देवो देवकी पुत्र एव। एको मन्त्रस्तस्य नामानि यानि कर्माप्येकं तस्य देवस्य सेवा कार्पण्यदोषोपहतः स्वभावः पृच्छामि त्वां धर्मसम्मूढचेताः यच्छ्रेयः स्यान्निश्चितं ब्रूहि तन्मे शिष्यस्तेऽहं शाधि मां त्वां प्रपन्नम् यत्र योगेश्वरः कृष्णो यत्र पार्थो धनुर्धरः तत्र श्रीर्विजयो भूतिर् ध्रुवा नीतिर्मतिर्मम कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नंदगोपकुमाराय गोविंदाय नमो नमः। नमः पंकजनाभाय नमः पंकजमालिने नमः पंकजनेत्राय नमस्ते पंकजंघ्रये। भवे भवे यथा भक्ति पादयोस्तव जायते तथा कुरुष्व देवेश नाथस्त्वं नो यतः प्रभो। नाम संकीर्तनं यस्य सर्वपाप प्रणाशनम् प्रणामो दुःखशमनस्तं नमामि हरिं परम्। हरि ओम तत्सत्।